getting loading screens. That means it must be going live.
The type hasn't changed.
It's also the number. It's also the number. I'm getting the same thing repeating.
You sound very robotic, Alex.
I was about to ask, what
literally.
did he just say?
Yeah, I'm going to say you just suddenly started breaking up.
It's probably since the stream started.
I'm the one with the internet problems.
How am I now? Must have just been loading the stream. Is the stream okay for everyone else? I've got the chat popped out.
Where even is the chat on Mixer these days? I can't see it.
Right hand side.
You might have it minimized.
Okay, so they put it on this stupid sliding thing, but it doesn't tell you if you don't do it out far enough, it doesn't pop it out.
So for all intents and purposes, are we ready to go, or are things still being sorted?
Nudes.
It still says that we're playing Pamela as well.
It should have updated.
Yeah, it's updated for me. It says we're doing Streamcast.
Oh, okay. In that case...
Apparently we're a teen-rated stream. We're not allowed.
That's because Dominoid isn't here.
I say it instantly gets bumped up when Gary shows up.
It recognises it's him. It's just like, no, R-rated.
Right, we'll crack on then.
Hamilton started recording.
Hello everyone on the stream, by the way. Just about to start the intro, so... I know no one's actually watching, but if you're watching it in the future, then what are you doing? It's Thursday, the 13th of July, and you're listening to the Game GrinCast live on Mixer. I'm your host, Hamiltonius, and joining me this evening are Ace.
Hello.
Cal.
Good evening.
The man in the engine room, streaming today, Cello. Puce.
Hello.
And Catty.
Hello.
So we've got a lot of news to get through as usual. We'll be talking about the acquisition of Game by Sports Direct and our own strategies for saving what a flagging business. But start with in case you didn't know, the Steam Summer Sale happened. We didn't talk about it a lot on the podcast. And at the end of it, 40,000 Steam users were hit with the Valve anti-cheat ban hammer. Happened on July 6th, the day after the sale ended, and is the single biggest ban wave in the history of Steam. previous record was 15,000 set in October. So yeah, a lot of people banned in one go. People think it's bots, obviously set up to farm cards, to sell for value. The total value of CS:GO weapon skins lost as a result of the bans was nearly $10,000. The ban rate has settled back down to usual now, although there was another spike of about 1,000, and then it's settled back down to normal. So, I mean, that's a lot. Is that Steam? Do you think that's Steam making up for lost ground? You know, it's an accumulation ban, or do you think there just were that many cheating accounts on the platform?
With the amount of people who have a Steam account, I could see that many were cheaters.
Yeah, if I remember right, don't they stagger them? So they like build them up over a period of time anyway. So they tend to do it in ban waves, anyway. But it's just interesting that they waited until the day after the sale.
So do you think that some people maybe perhaps who've been getting away with it for a little bit suddenly have the hammer swing down upon them?
Yeah, definitely be interested to see how many of those people were legitimate people and not sort of, like you say, botting accounts that were just farming either skins or cards. I wonder what the proportion is, because undoubtedly there were probably some real people in there as well, not just second or third accounts or whatever.
Yeah, I guess that does make sense. I wonder. I think it's an area of Steam that not many of us are very familiar with, because a lot of this is tied to things like CS:GO skins and loot boxes and card trading, and none of us really do that in bulk, so we can't really speak from that side of the fence. But I guess there's always quite a lot of money to be made out of those areas.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just from this Steam sale alone, I made about including games that I got cards for anyway, I'd made about £11 in total from selling cards this Steam sale. And I'm super casual, I don't do it normally at all, so that's crazy to me. So if people are doing it legitimately not as a business, say, but actually focusing on doing it, they can probably make lots of money, actually. I was surprised.
Not much else to go on really with this story then, if anyone's got any closing remarks at all to chuck out there. No? Well, there you go. Cheaters get what they deserve. The next story is about Super Mario Odyssey. Nintendo has confirmed that the game will have no game over screens. Instead, if Mario's health drops to 0, instead of losing a life, you'll use 10, your coin total. Coins add up to 100, and then you get an extra life for every 100. Which is interesting, because from what I've seen from the gameplay that's about, there's not a shortage of coins out there. So, I mean, some people are saying that this is like turning the game into easy mode, making it, easier for kids, whether it's a good choice or a bad choice. I mean, we can broaden this out. Does the game over screen still really have a place in that kind of in the industry, or in that game in particular?
I think it's got to depend game by game. If the guys making Mario Odyssey don't think that their game needs a game over screen, then it doesn't need a game over screen. But the same obviously can't be said for something like Dark Souls, which does have game over screens, and it's got to go game by game. It's not going to fit every game.
I mean, like Dark Souls is a good example, because death's like an integral part of that play pattern. You play that game, and it's got a very focused routine from death to you get a hit in a challenge, dying, rinse, repeat. I'd argue that lives have been irrelevant in Mario games since the 2D NES era, and Nintendo have been moving slowly away from lives for a long time. In most Mario games, you rack up lives at a ridiculous clip to the point where they're almost pointless anyway. And with the more recent Mario games, they added the power-ups to, if you fail 5 or more times in a level, you would get like a super Tanuki suit, so you could just fly over the level or be invulnerable. So it seems like they've been moving away for a long time for lives. This is just getting rid of a counter, essentially.
I suppose to quote Reggie, it's about the game being fun. So if I believe that they must think that a game over screen in a Mario game isn't necessarily fun for players, and I suppose it's not when you consider the demographics of the people who usually play them. You don't want to be frustrating people.
Isn't it an open world title this time?
It is, yeah. It's more like Mario 64 than the other titles.
I wonder how much of that comes into this, because I wonder if maybe they don't want to set people into weird checkpoints and things. So I wonder if maybe that's got something to do with this as well.
But if it's like an open world game, like if you think like Grand Theft Auto,
it's not open world, it's a sandbox game.
Oh, right.
Nintendo was staying away from the phrase open world.
Sandbox, open world. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing.
Depends how many towers there are.
Well, Zelda was an open air game, after all. Not an open world game.
So I'm saying is, if you think like GTA, there's no really a game over screen in GTA. You just get wasted, and then you don't
use 10 of your coins.
You use 10 of your coins, but at most you'd have to restart the mission that you're on. But you still don't get really a game over screen forcing you to load a previous save or anything like that.
No, you would just spawn at the police station or the hospital, depending on if you were killed or wasted and killed or arrested. Or and even in later ones, like from GTA 4 onwards, they added the trip skip thing, so that you could even skip the initial car ride when you retry missions. So they wanted death to be even less of a penalty.
Exactly.
I still just save before mission, save after missions and then reload.
That's your choice.
You're a perfectionist, Ace. That's the problem.
I've played the whole of GTA 5 and didn't die once.
I reloaded 7,352 times, but I didn't die once.
Saves made 7,000.
I personally think this is just Nintendo sort of moving on with the way of the times, because lives are an inherent thing from arcades, where games were made hard, and easy to lose lives, because then you pay another quarter to play the game again. But now people just buy the game and own it, so there's no real reason to have live systems in them anymore, unless there is like an inherent gameplay reason for that to be there. So this just seems to be Nintendo coming up with something else to challenge the player, and that's what I'm interested in. I want to know what these coins are going to be used for.
And if you can buy some more coins using real money.
There we go. Trade it in for extra skins for Mario.
Or it's a hint that they're going to do like a Dark Souls X DLC for Mario Galaxy, Mario Odyssey, where it's a hard mode. It adds death back into the game.
Goombas tear Mario limb from limb. And a fantastic way to scar children. Moving on. So how about that EA Access? Everyone seems to be coming up with their own premium monthly service these days. And EA have jumped out with a fairly good-looking one. So EA Access, in case you don't know, it allows you to play unlimited play of full EA games on Xbox One. So it's $3.99 a month. This is pounds, so like 50p everywhere else, or £20 a year for this service. You can cancel it at any time, and it says you get free unlimited use of full titles. And now you probably think that'll be like a few indies here and there, maybe one mark game every now and again. But Battlefield 1 and Titanfall 2 are both coming to EA Access, and I believe Madden NFL, not that anyone plays that in the UK, is on it, and Unravel as well. So it seems like they're throwing out the big guns for what is a fairly cheap service.
I'm very confused about how you started that news piece, because the way you're just going, hang on, have we gone back in time? That's been out for a while now. It's also on PC, called Origin Access, and it is getting Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1. But recently it's got Battlefront Ultimate Edition with all the DLC. I say that because I am subscribed to it.
Yeah, I'm subscribed on both Xbox and PC now because of this.
Not Xbox. Only on well, I suppose now there's loads of old games on there. Their vault is actually surprisingly decent. They've got like the Dead Space games, they've got the Mass Effect games on it, they've got
Battlefield
Crisis.
Hardline and 4.
All the Battlefield titles. Even like Battlefield Hardline and 4 have all the premium content included.
Yeah, that's right.
So you pay $3.99 to get a shit ton of content. And like any subscription service, as Alex said, you can cancel at any time. You know, complete all the Mass Effect games again, and then be like, oh, fuck it. It only cost me £4.
One of the bigger things I think because they normally add in the big games a little while after their release. There's no real big surprise. Battlefield 1 and 2 are coming to this, but it's nice to see them including paid betas. That's what it seems for all of the sport games. So FIFA 18, Madden, NFL, NHL, and the NBA 18. All of those are having a trial.
Yeah, they do
before official release.
They do their play trial thing for like the bigger titles. Like Battlefield 1 was on 1 until the well, I think it still technically is until this goes live. It's one of the games where you can do a trial where they let you play for 10 hours. And
you can do the first mission, and then you can play for 10 hours on the multiplayer. They're quite restricting on the if it's a single player title, it's a little restricting. Like Mass Effect was like 10 hours of gameplay, so you got a good chunk of the opening. But that what shot them the foot, because obviously the game allowed you to play it early, part of the EA trial. Everyone jumped on, played Mass Effect Andromeda within the first 10 hours on the PC, and then all of a sudden you saw these shit start popping up and people going impressions about the game before it's out because of this trial.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things that can be a double-edged sword. It's like it can be a positive if your game's good, but it can also be a bit of a bad thing.
Channel, The Spherical Cat, link to twitter.com.
But does anyone think that you can end up racking up quite a lot of monthly payments at this rate? Do you think this is, on a separate theme, do you think this is the way the industry could go? So no more buying of separate games, subscribing to services like if you forgive me for being like a conference speaker, a Netflix for video games.
Yeah, it won't be a service that, like how Netflix has changed, you know, how people just watch TV and entertainment. They don't bother buying game box sets or Blu-rays. But on this side of things, as I said, yeah, most people like to actually own the copy of the game and keep it, and not just rely on an online service to provide it to you know, temporarily or, you know, for a paid subscription.
I think the other problem is that people do only have a finite amount of income that they can spend on things. And as good as EA Access is, and it is quite good value when you consider the yearly fee. If you think that you just bought a console, say you just bought an Xbox One, if you pay £20 for the year, you've got access to, I think on console it's around 50 games, which for that value, even if you cancel the subscription immediately afterwards, you've got way more than £20 worth of value there in full games, just including Battlefield 4, Hardline, Battlefield 1, Titanfall 2, and the sports games if you're into those. And there are other indie things like Unravel and things. So from a value point of view, it seems quite good, but I can't see every company doing that or offering a service that's got as much value and expect people to subscribe to 6, 7, 8 of these, because it's just not going to happen. People don't have that sort of money.
No, and there won't be any company that is like Netflix, for example. That's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of TV shows and films from different distributors, like Warner Brothers, Universal, all them, massive mixed bag. But you're not going to see a service from one big company saying, I know they've tried it in the past, but it hasn't really worked, to be honest with you. Like on live, but where you've got different games from different publishers allowing you to stream all the games or download them. It just doesn't work because they want their own shit. Ubisoft's got Uplay, or EA's got Origin, and so forth. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think the console space is the closest with PlayStation Now and the Xbox Game Pass. But if you look at those libraries, they're outside of first party. They're very limited in what third party stuff they've got, and I think that's always going to be the stumbling block to get, and like you say, a Netflix type experience, an all-in-one encompassing thing.
It's just the same. Sony didn't allow it. It's a real dick move.
I think it's
nah. So fuck you, Sony.
I think one of the issues is that video games as an industry probably makes too much money. If there was going to be a Netflix for video games, it would have happened a few years ago before it became a money market that it is today. And also, if you look at the way Netflix operates as well, now they're content creators now as opposed to content aggregators. So they've sort of come full circle. So they're now becoming, if they were a video games company, they're becoming developers as opposed to publishers. So maybe it's just a model that won't work out. Although
it probably doesn't translate.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, if you look on Origin Access, there is a few titles that are not solely published by EA on there. Just throw that out.
I think the more interesting thing with the Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1 thing is how quick it is from launch to this. It's only, 6 months? Just over 6 months? Came out in November, didn't we?
Yeah, not even a year.
And that seems an awfully short time. It's one of those things where you perhaps kind of expect these to migrate to EA Access once the next one's lined up, but before a year's gone, it seems really quick.
I've got two theories on it, considering Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1. Titanfall 2 is kind of struggling, unfortunately, because the player base isn't there, and because of how it got released. EA's fault. That's what happened. They need more players, so it makes sense for them to put it into the Vault quite early to get that bigger player base, because it's very big on the Xbox and is very popular on the PC. That's Titanfall 2. Battlefield 1, on the other hand, is more of an encouragement, because Battlefield 1 has a player base problem, but not for the base game, but because of the DLC. Nobody's buying the premium pass. That's why companies are starting to get rid of them. So EA is thinking, well, if we give the base game away for free, then that might encourage them to go, oh, I got this game £4 a month. I don't mind paying 30 quid for the premium pass, or buying the map pack individually, separately. Saves you money. Well, would you buy a premium pass for a game you don't own? What I'm saying is, if EA's basically say, if you're an Access subscriber, and you're like, oh, Battlefield 1, I'll download that. If you really enjoy Battlefield 1, then you'd be like, oh, I might buy the map pack, or I might buy the season pass, because the base game is still like 30 quid, and then you've got the premium pass on top of it. So, the premium pass is 30 quid, but the base game is still about 30 quid as well. So
Yeah, that is true. But the other way of looking at it is that it's like I say, if you do the yearly subscription, especially where it's £20, it's hard to argue with that value proposition because that's less than what buying Battlefield 1 would cost you, and you're getting all these access to the other games as well. So I suppose if you're looking at it from that perspective, and like Cal says, you enjoy the game and you want to give something to EA, then there's worse things to spend it on than the premium pass if you're enjoying that game, I guess. Especially if you consider, like, will I really be playing Battlefield 1 in a year's time? If you pay annually, say. It's like you will probably get your money's worth out of it. But I suppose it depends how you look at the value proposition, I think.
This is what I've noticed a little trend as well with more and more games, especially with Rainbow Six Siege. That's a great example because you've got the base game, which is quite often getting discounted. They've got the starter pack and all the other stuff, and they've got a year 1 and year 2 season passes. So Ubisoft's attention is more about getting more people to buy the base game for cheap and then keeping them playing it, thinking, oh, I'm really enjoying this game. I got it quite cheap. There's loads of shit I can buy in the game. I could buy the year 1 season pass or the year 2 season pass. Because that then makes it paying almost like a full price for the title. And they've just sold you a shitload of content and microtransactions. For longevity.
Yeah, using these things as a loss leader to promote purchase of microtransactions or expansions is quite an interesting turn to take.
That's why apps are free. Because you're encouraged to download them and then pay for shit inside of it. Oh dear. That's what's happening to this world.
Free-to-play AAA titles.
Yeah.
Such as Mario Odyssey.
They'll never go free to play. They'll just say it's pay to play, as they've or pay to pay. They're turning into
pay to play.
No, there's no gameplay or anything. It's just you pay to get a cutscene, and then you have to pay for the next bit of the cutscene.
Which needs a remote to activate.
Yeah, maybe you have to push a button once every so often.
Or if you're playing a Kojima game, you have to pay to skip the cutscene. No
just
more.
Loops otherwise.
No more.
It costs £1 a minute that you want to skip.
Yeah.
God,
I just want to skip the intro cutscene. £40.
That's genuinely something that Konami could do. If they fuck up the Metal Gear Solid more than they already have, then that doesn't surprise me if they stuck that in. They've got it as a pachinko machine. They turned Metal Gear Solid 3 into a pachinko machine.
And to rub salt into the wounds. All the cutscenes were done with really nice
little Fox engine
graphics.
Bastards.
Why not?
Keep on trolling Konami.
Fuck Konami.
Bless them. Right, we'll shift on to this. In true fashion, we're going to do this quickly, but Summer Games Done Quick 2017 has finished, raising $1,760,360 for Doctors Without Borders. Some highlights were someone doing a very fast Link to the Past run, and someone doing 8 hours of Final Fantasy VII. Which is quite, I think 8 hours sounds like quite a long time to play Final Fantasy VII, but that is a big, big game.
Yeah, especially for the no slots variant, where they don't use Kate Sith's limit break abuse to break that game. So it's even longer than what it normally is in a speedrun. I think the fastest time's around 6.5 hours. So it was really fun to watch as well. I really enjoyed checking in on that throughout the day. It was good fun. The Majora's Mask run was amazing as well.
To put the value into perspective, 1,760,000, that's 82 times what they earned on the first Summer Games Done Quick back in 2011.
It's pretty good. It shows probably the explosion in popularity of, well, one, speedrunning, and two, streaming. I think we covered the Amazing Games Done Quick earlier this year as well. Really, they're great causes. I think it's a great thing to do. It's and our own charity stream is available for anyone listening to the podcast who wants to see members of this podcast even streaming away for 24 hours to raise money for charity.
Yeah, it's still available on YouTube.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good fun.
I think it's still available on YouTube. I've said that.
Yeah,
As he deletes it.
One of the other popular speedrunning marathons that's cropped up that involves some of the people that do Summer Games Done Quick is RPG Limit Break, which focuses just on RPGs. That has some insanely long runs, like 12-hour long RPGs and things. And they raise money for mental illness. So that's another one run by the same group of people.
Fantastic.
You know what? It's not. I will get those re-uploaded to uploaded.
Yes, you're up against time now. It's a race against time.
It's 35 gigabytes.
You just got upgraded your internet.
Yeah, 10 minutes, fine.
It's not like we're
Sorted,
live
mate.
or anything.
Yeah. Anyone remember playing Bandai Namco games back in the past, where you could have a fun little mini game during the loading screen? Sometimes it would be not Space Invaders, but yeah, lots of like
Galaga.
Galaga. Thank you very much, Piers, for jumping in there with the actual name of the game. That patent expired. Famously, it was owned by Bandai Namco, and it expired 2 years ago. I spotted a question that was put up on Reddit this week asking, the patent expired, so why aren't we seeing any more auxiliary games, as the patent is called, basically mini games placed in loading screens? We do have some games that do little loading screen things, as Assassin's Creed, apparently, as I was going to pronounce it, does that little purgatory running around thing you can do. But I can't think of many other games where you have something to do during the loading screen. And is that a missed opportunity? Or is it just a bit of extra effort that's not really worth it?
I think effort.
I think it was always one of those fun novelty things, because it's like even games back in the Commodore 64 era used to do this when you're loading games from tape. I remember Ghostbusters on the Commodore 64 used to load a Space Invader-esque mini game for you to play while it was loading. And then obviously Namco with the Ridge Racer, Galaga.
Commas Puce.
Mini game. So
My favourite. Sorry.
So I can't actually recall what other Namco games had that in. I remember one of them. I think it was Ridge Racer Revolution that did the Galaga thing. But,
My favourite loading screen minigame was the one in Mass Effect 1. Because you're in an elevator.
oh, the elevator conversation minigame. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was
Probably call that a
fantastic.
mini game.
Well, it was a loading screen.
Just listen to
and
people.
it was interactive.
I actually
Mini
thought
game.
I actually found that really mundane. I didn't like those hidden loading screen elevator rides. But then also in Mass Effect 2 they lampooned it. So is it 2? It might have been 3 actually. But I think there's an argument to be put out there. Like, one, it's effort, and two, most games these days don't have significant enough loading times. There's Do you think there's a platform bias here? Because I know that when you have depending on how good your PC is, loading times can be extremely tiny. I think the longest loading time I currently have of any game I play is The Witcher, and even that's like 30 seconds at the longest. But on some people report playing The Witcher 3 on consoles like the Xbox One and having to wait 2 to 3 minutes. So in cases like that, and to be fair, actually, I lied. GTA Online is awful for load times. So games like that would benefit from it, but implementing it is another thing altogether.
I think most developers.
Yeah, I don't have an SSD either. And although having only just bought a console, we'll see how I feel down the line. I don't know if we have a few other people who have consoles here, obviously. So does anyone else think that's the case? Any games that they think load a lot slower on the console as opposed to PC?
I think one of the biggest reasons is because the consoles feature a very slow hard drive. You've got a 5400 RPM hard drive in the PS4, which is really slow. I think with you guys on PC, even if you don't have a solid state drive, you've probably got a hard drive that has at least 7400. It's going to be much quicker.
I think my hard drive's getting on for about about 6 years old now.
Mm.
It's still. I was only just today considering buying a new one, and part of my grand scheme to update to Windows 10 at some point in my life, because I've got 32 gig of RAM and my Windows 7 can only handle 16 at a time. So there's no point in it being. But I'm digressing.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to, it depends what the mini game is. It's like in the case of Ridge Racer with the Gallagher mini game. One, that was back in the PlayStation 1 days, and CD loading times weren't the greatest anyway, so there was plenty of time for it to spool up. But
I actually prefer the Gallagher to Ridge Racer.
Yeah, the game itself was actually the arcade ROM, so it was only like a few K. It was literally nothing to load into memory, so from that point of view, it was really quick, so it was quite convenient to do and didn't really detract from the rest of the load times. But yeah, that's definitely a concern depending on what it is that it's doing. It's like if it would detract from making the load time shorter, then it wouldn't be worth doing in the first place. So
I still remember Dragon Ball Budokai or Budokai 2. The loading screens had a Master Roshi's turtle shell that you could spin around.
I think
that was at least interesting.
There are a few games that have tried little things like that. Like with both Skyrim and Fallout 4, you could spin items around and zoom in on them and move them around the screen and stuff. I think, and we've mentioned The Witcher already, but The Witcher tries to, when you load up a new game, give you like where you got up to in the story via a little narration. But usually that cuts out long before the game loads. So I think there are a number of tricks that can be used. I think probably the further we go in terms of technology, the less it will have to be thought about.
Something I think that will persist beyond loading screens are wait times or the in-game queues for getting, so like multiplayer games. You can sit in queues for anywhere between 30 seconds and 10 minutes sometimes, depending on the game. I remember Fractured Space very briefly had a Asteroids clone in its queue time, so you'd queue up and be able to play Asteroids for a couple of minutes while you got 10 other people or 9 other people to blow your ships to smithereens with. So I wonder if maybe we won't see them take off in loading screens, but rather in future games that will have queues.
It's an interesting point.
Mm-hmm. There's one thing I've noticed as well with more and more games, is that they let you play the game before it's fully installed. And I noticed with some console games, like mostly EA games, have, I suppose with Star Wars and Plants vs. Zombies, before the game's fully installed itself, it will let you play the game. And it's like a tutorial area, or it's a little area you can run around and piss about and just get used to the controls while the game is still installing. Anyone notice that?
Can't say that.
That's a neat idea.
It's like World of Warcraft does that to a degree now, where once you hit like a certain percentage of the download, it lets you go in and create a character and do the start area.
I think there are some games that do it
in the background.
I know that Blizzard's app does that. Lets you go into games. In fact, today I bought Dynasty Warriors, and that you could play after about 25% of the download had been done. You couldn't go into any of the modes, but you could start the game up. I don't know what the point was really, but
oh yeah, I'm Dynasty Warriors 7, 8. Sorry?
8. It was.
With most Blizzard games, they tend to have a sort of a cut-off point where you can start playing the game, but it will still keep downloading the high-res textures and sound files and things.
Right, we'll shift on, because we spent quite a lot of time talking about loading times there, to Wild West Online, WWO. There's some shady stuff going on. I'm going to give you the TLDR, and then I'm going to let everyone else fire away. So listen to this. Basically, Wild West Online is being made by a company that only employs a handful of people, and has only existed for a handful of months, despite the fact that the game itself has had a website for about a year, which kind of means the game existed and had a website before the company who came up with it and are making it did. The CEO of the company, I believe it's 612 Games is the name of the developer, isn't it? Doesn't work there, but works at a different company. The other two people who work there also work at a different company and do media consulting. And that media company also owns a lot of 612 Games. It's also got links with a guy called Sergei Titov, who is known as quite a shady character for taking people's money and running. 612 denied they've got any influence from him, but there are things up online like the 612 lead being friends with Titov on Facebook. And it's becoming more and more shady, and thus becoming more and more like a Titov project. So basically, we don't know anything about it, apart from the screenshots that have been released. We don't know anything about the company that's making it. We don't know who's involved, who's got fingers in what pies, and it's becoming a bit of a cluster, to be honest. So that's the too long didn't read, and I'll let anyone else jump in with any other details they want to throw out there for the listeners.
So, I was looking into this because I saw the news piece about it, which I also wrote. But they originally kicked off because there was a screenshot that was leaked online showing this Wild West environment, very impressive graphically, and people believed it was Red Dead Redemption 2. Fortunately, it wasn't. And all of a sudden, when people found out, oh, what is it then? It looks amazing. They came out and said it was Wild West Online. Instantly put them into the spotlight, piqued people's interest. They did their funding, and then the dirt started appearing about the shadiness of it all. As soon as they released their newest gameplay trailer, which showed footage of a rather good-looking game, but rather janky, and the animations people were like, oh, where have I seen this? The game engine looks very familiar. And then lo and behold, it turned out the game engine they're using is the same that was used for War Z and Infestation, which is what it got renamed to, which was a hot pile of garbage, which stole people's money. Yeah, not a lot of happiness or confidence put into the Wild West Online anymore.
Was anyone here that interested in the game itself?
I was at first.
Yeah, the concept of a Wild West Online game is really interesting. It's just, yeah, it definitely puts a dampener on any sort of excitement knowing that that's in there. There's involvement from the War Z people, even if it is just a terrible engine. But
So they deny the use of the, well, they're not denying they're not using the game engine, but their excuse of having any affiliation with the War Z developers is they said they've only licensed out the engine. Nothing to do with anything else. We've got no affiliation with the Tivov guy. Nothing like that. We just literally licensed the engine from the company who owns it. Because apparently... Yeah, because apparently it got them to a playable state or a decent state of quality in a very short period of time. Which is really weird considering there's an engine that's barely used. It's an in-house engine. And a lot of other developers, especially making quite grandeur games, to go alpha stages or early access, is using Unreal Engine 4. Which would have probably been a better choice to go with if you're making a massive open Wild West title. But
the thing I'm really confused about is you don't need a license to get Nightshade. It's open source.
Yeah, that is
you
true.
can go and download it from GitHub right now, I think, or an equivalent.
I assume it's equivalent build, but I think they wanted the source code and all that shit to go along with it. It just sounds incredibly shady.
Yeah, you can download something that was updated pretty recently on OpenHub, which is a GitHub competitor that no one uses, and that's source code. And it was updated like a month ago.
Oh dear. Well,
So what you're saying is we should make a game?
Oh yeah, we could make a game.
We should definitely make a game, but not use the Nightshade engine. We should use literally any other engine.
Even
How about the
Cry
Nightshade engine?
I'd even advise you to use the Cry engine, which is one of the notoriously difficult engines to work with, unless you're Crytek.
Now, a game would definitely be a point-and-click adventure, but using the Scum engine.
Telltale engine.
Yeah, the Telltale engine. The GrinCast adventures on the Telltale engine.
Ugh. Quick time events to make me say before every sentence.
And joining me is Ace. Do you say hello? Do you say hi? Do you say nothing?
Yes, do you let the timer run out? And,
Hamiltonians will remember that.
Well done.
Our final piece of news today is that Mike Ashley, that well-known and trustworthy businessman and the owner of Sports Direct, has bought a 26% stake in Game Digital, the company that is behind the video game stores in both the UK and US. Rumours are that he's going to go for a full acquisition sometime in the future. At the minute, he's a little bit busy with a court case, but I'm sure he'll get round to it. Now, the interesting theory comes in that Game obviously has been losing a lot of stock recently. It's been losing a lot of money. It's been trying to reposition itself in the market. And where Sports Direct comes into it, people think that Sports Direct will be going to games insomnia festivals and making it a merchandising opportunity for Sports Direct via esports. So essentially giving Sports Direct an esports market, or a shop front, you might say, which is an interesting one. So we're going to first talk about the news, and then we're going to open it up to anyone else's ideas of how we can save game, or how game can save itself. But first, what do people think about this acquisition? It sort of came a little bit out of nowhere. Games Digital's shares jumped 15% on the day of the news, and then lost most of that, and ended up being only up by about 3%. So it had a tiny effect.
You know, if they do buy a game outright, they're just going to create a new section in game stores called Esports Direct.
Yes, you know that for a fact. Yes.
I wrote that down earlier, so I remember that.
I've been
When
waiting
that
for
time
that all
comes,
day.
it's like an envelope hanging somewhere. It's like, this is the prediction. And then when it happens, I was fucking right.
I'm not sure that was worth the 3-hour wait.
It was worth it.
It's just
Don't
another...
ruin this for me.
It's just one shitty company buying another shitty company. And why game? But there's
Don't sit on the fence, Cal. Tell us what you really think.
It's just a shitty decision. Game just deserves to die. There's no happy moment in there. I feel sorry for the staff.
So you don't want to buy their premium points card?
Oh, Game Elite. Oh, yeah.
Where you make
So, Cal,
3%
you've
on
just
sales.
been made the CEO of Game. How do you one keep Mike Ashley happy, and two keep Game afloat? Come on, what's your idea?
Basically, what I'll do is I'll create a board meeting. All the higher-ups, yeah? I'll say, we're losing money. We need to make a better business. I have one solution, okay? This is how you do it. And then I'll proceed to take a gun and put it against my neck and pull the trigger. And that'll be the answer.
Oh.
Harsh.
Wow.
But it's serious though. Game are struggling. They can't really compete. It's like recently they complained that some of the sales was because of Nintendo at one point. They're losing money because
Nintendo didn't send them enough Switches.
Yeah, they're not producing enough Switches, so they're losing money because we're not selling enough Switches. Thus, we're not selling enough Switch games. And they're like bitching then about the supermarket stores, as the Sainsbury's, Tesco, whatever, that they're selling games as well, so they're taking customers away. But the reality is they're selling the games at more competitive prices. They're giving customers better offers. You know, the amount of times you go in there and it's like £10 off your £50 shopping or something. And it's like, well, that's also 10 quid off a game. I buy a game, I get my lunch, comes to about 50 quid, 10 quid off. It's a free meal. So they're not being that competitive enough. They're just like you go in there and it's like fucking games for 55 quid still. It's like, wow. Chuck them and leave.
I wonder if this acquisition or potential acquisition, will actually change anything there, because Sports Direct are not the most expensive shop on the high street, as in they're pretty on price, as it were. So I wonder if maybe they will knock some of that ridiculous extra money that games seem to think they need to charge.
That might be the case, although I think a lot of Sports Direct's products are made by their own manufacturers. A lot of their cheap stuff's made by a company called Sonderco, who are owned by Sports Direct. I don't think they can really mark down a product like video games very well. But I think, there's a retail analyst speaking to the BBC said of the acquisition, the best that can be said about this bizarre investment by Sports Direct is that the stake in Game Digital only cost the company about £10 million. Such is the low level to which Game share price has sunk. So people also don't think that Ashley has an actual strategy in mind, but at least it's only in air quotes cost him 10 million.
It's only cost him 10 million to do it. To get a quarter of the company.
Yeah.
They really are going downhill. Yeah.
So, does anyone actually have any rescue plans since we opening out? A lot of companies have shifted to being a more platform as a service. If you look at IBM, they used to make computers, now they do cloud computing. So that's something Game could do.
I can imagine they could make it a positive thing by if they change their strategy where They had something ages ago where they tried to open like a pub or a club where you pay X amount of money, you can go in there, and it's like an internet cafe almost, but it's like a pub setting for the young kids. I think if they try and look at that market and generate their own sort of mini, like what's it called? The massive LAN party thing. The
Insomnia.
one. That's the one. Mini Insomnias. They have that. They buy a site. It's a bit like a club, pub, full of video games. You pay to get in.
So that's kind of what they've been doing. Over the past, I think since December last year, they've started opening what they're called game arenas, which are basically, they cannibalise their shops, make them half the size for shop floor, and then turn the other half into an esports. I don't want to call it a cafe, because basically the way it works is you go in, you pay £5, you get an hour to play on their reasonably spec'd PCs. And I think they're going about it the wrong way. I think they should charge people to play on their computers. I think they should scrap the thing that it opens at stupid hours. It's open like 12 till 9, the one in my town. I think what they should do is get a proper license to sell drinks and food in these places. Completely forget about selling games. That clearly isn't working anymore. And just go full on this and turn game from a game reseller into an esports / gaming bar. Because I think that it wouldn't necessarily save them, but I think it would stop them from completely disappearing off the face of the planet.
Yeah, it'd be much more bigger brand recognition.
I think that's I think if you give people, I think it's a similar sort of moving from a service orientation to a platform orientation. If you give people, let's say you go into a town where maybe not everyone has an enthusiast level PC, or not everyone has an Xbox One or a PS4, and you say, look, you pay a nominal fee, you come in here, you get an hour or two to play games you wouldn't get to play otherwise, and then you can order a burger while you're at it. I think it's a fairly good idea. I mean, I got a D in business at GCSE, so I've got no idea how you go about getting towards that, but I think that is certainly a move they could transition towards.
I think the biggest problem they've got at the moment is these arenas are probably costing them more money than they're bringing in, because they have to pay for all the staff. There's normally 4 staff in this one. I'm just going to use the one that I know, the one in my town. They've paid for super fast internet in there. They've bought all of these PCs, and every time I walk past, there's maybe one person in there at £5 an hour.
Perhaps there's a way they could tie it in with developers and publishers where on the launch day of a game, instead of people queuing up to buy the game, they queue up to play the game. They've just got it set up. Go inside, there's a bank of 20 to 30 computers, go in and play the game on launch day without having to go queue up and buy it. Or even play the game before launch day, get a half an hour segment of the game, allow people to go in and pay for it. Similar to like a cinema, I guess.
And that could work really well, because these days everything's done through cloud saving on consoles and even on PC. So you can log into your account, play the game for a little while. If you want to buy it, then you've already got your couple hours of playtime. You can just go home and pick up where you left off. Or you can just choose not to buy it. And that's it.
Sort of. Cello's been rather quiet. What's your strategy for game, if you are still there and not eating ice cream?
It's gelato.
Used to it. Never mind.
But yeah, I think they've got to move towards something like a game bar or like you say, some sort of front of shop style service like they are doing with the arenas. Just because the physical game market is slowly disappearing as more and more moves to digital. And the thing that I wonder how much of a long-term effect it's had, if you go back a long time, is Game and other physical shops, they moved towards pre-owned quite early on, and they kind of sell pre-owned games at a premium, like to the point where they're not actually that much cheaper than buying new in more recent games cases. And by doing that, they've kind of shut off the original creators who they expect to send them stock to sell. And it's like when you're cutting into them, as that market's dried up, and those companies have quite happily moved away from it because of that. It's been on the cards for such a long time that they shouldn't really be surprised that it's drying up in the way it is.
Saying that with Mike Ashley at the helm, who knows what could happen to it? I think maybe they'll name the Newcastle Stadium the Game Arena.
The Game Digital Arena, just to mix the brands together.
The Esports Direct Arena.
One thing I do find funny, all the game arenas have really cringy names, like the one in my town in Colchester is the Centurions Arena. I can't remember any of the other ones, but they're all suitably cringy like that.
Perhaps it's too little too late. Maybe Cal's idea was the best one.
Blow your brains out.
Just take it out back with a shotgun and tell your kids that you sent it to live on a farm. Oh, well, that seemed like a great sentiment to end the podcast. We've still got a few minutes left. I don't know if anyone's got anything else they want to throw out there before we shut down the Streamcast.
I've been calling them arenas, and they are arenas, but the actual company name is Belong by Game.
It's what? Belong by Game?
Belong by Game.
I think that's what they want to be. That's what they want to feel. Belonged.
Channel.
That's like perfume.
Link to Twitter.
That does sound like games bring out its own fragrance. But surely the fragrance would be like Mountain Dew or Doritos instead.
Yeah, but if they did their own ad, it would be like some kids playing, and it's like a men's fragrance. It's like, whoa, dude, you sound radical. What are you wearing? It's Belong by Game. Whoa, awesome, man.
As they're playing Gears of War 1.
The one in Bristol is called Bristol Smugglers.
It's so basically. I mean, to be fair, at least they, going after the cringy esports team name market.
I guarantee that Sports Direct is going to have a FIFA esports team.
Oh yeah,
and it's going to be covered in discount stickers and Sports Direct labels. They'll all say like 70% off, 80% off. Their clothing would be from Sports Direct, but it wouldn't be branded. It would be theirs, and it would still have the tags and the stickers and the logos saying it's Sports Direct.
Is it saying 3 for 2 on it?
Yeah, 3 for 2.
They'd be on 0 hours contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Get the new FIFA 18 DLC where it adds Sports Direct to the arena barriers in the advertising boards.
There's one good positive thing I got out of Sports Direct. I got one of their massive mugs once. Have you guys got any of those?
Yeah. Oh, the really big black ones that
you can get. Yeah,
they're huge.
Massive coffee mug, and it just says Sports Direct on it. It's such a good mug for its capacity. The only good
there
thing
you go. Just change markets.
And mug kitchenware.
Yeah, wow.
Sorted. Well, thank God. There you go, game. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Sorted out all your problems. Start making mugs. Speaking of mugs, we've got to the end of the podcast. And the Streamcast, in fact. So, thank you, listeners and watchers on Mixer. I've been your host, Hamiltonius, and joining me this week have been Ace, Cal, Shadow, Puce, and Catty. Now, if you want to get in touch with the GrinCast and give us your ideas of how game can be saved, you can find us on Twitter at GrinCast, or you can leave a comment on the GameGrin website, which is www.gamegrin.com. You can find GameGrin on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Just search the name GameGrin. We're also on iTunes. We haven't mentioned that for a while, and someone rapped me over the knuckles to remind me to tell you this, that we are on iTunes. You can find us by searching for the GameGrin GrinCast. And leave us 5 stars because we love to be praised. Also remember to check out Game On, which does lots of great magazines in the gaming industry, and also the Film and TV Mag. I believe I've covered mostly everything, so once again, thanks to you listeners. We'll be back again next week. But until then, game on.
Hamilton stopped recording.
And now for the special bit at the end for everyone listening to the stream, where I've turned off the podcast, and now the streamers get a nice little bit at the end where we all sort of fumble around trying to remember who we are, what we do.
It's like DVD commentary.
It is a bit.
So when Alex approached me to join the podcast, I decided to see if I can tell him how much hatred I have toward him. But over the years after the time passed, we grew up.
Why are you going back in time the longer you speak?
That's how DVD commentaries work.
Indubitably.
I just got someone to hold my beer. Hold my beer while I do a podcast.
Well, these are the deleted scenes that were no good to stick on a DVD.
Yeah. You hold a beer while you're playing most games, to be honest, Cal. That explains a lot of things.
That is true. Got one of the beer hats.
Yeah.
Game of horrible. Can't say enough.
I remember when I was younger when trading in first became a thing, like 12 or 13 games just so I could get like Fight Night Round 2 on PlayStation 2.
And then
I traded in all these games, and then it got to the bit where they were buying it, and because I was 14, it was a 15 rated game, and they wanted to see my ID, and I had to go outside and find a random adult to buy the game for me.
Chatting up random adults in the street.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those were the days back when we were safe.
Yeah. I'll buy it for you, kid, if you come with me to my van afterwards.
All right, mister, that sounds a right good idea.
That sounds reasonable.
Have you got sweets?
Yeah, it just so happens to be an ice cream truck.
Me?
Oh, I was after a bag of jelly babies.
You better have a dib-dab.
I have some sweets, but they're in this foil wrapping.
That's such
Not
a
really
strange
sure.
sentence.
I'm not sure what all these accents have become. We're morphing into different people.
I honestly
take us.
think that is one of the weirdest sentences I've ever heard, Getty. I've got some sweets, but they're in a foil wrapping. Here you go, young child.
I mean, I try.
It's like
At
someone
least you
handing
don't sound
you
like Barry White, this podcast.
That's true. At least it's not like someone handing you a sandwich and it's in plastic wrap, and they're just saying sorry because it's been smudged. It's really warm. That's like the worst.
A warm cucumber sandwich, yeah.
It's got to be in aluminium foil. That's just the best way of doing
Well, it's
it.
when you've had when it's like a Marmite or a peanut butter sandwich, and then the peanut butter's like all squidged up against the cellophane. It's like, oh god.
Yeah. Like if you have like a tomato in it or something, it's just like absorbs the juices and it's just.
See, we're already coming up with concepts and settings for the Telltale game.
You've got to buy a sandwich from a man in a van that just hands you some sweets.
It starts off reminiscing, flashing back to a sandwich conversation, and then you end up in a sandwich shop here.
You trying to get to the sweets in the tin foil is a quick time event.
Yeah.
With dramatic diving and rolling across the floor.
You've got to rotate the right stick round and around to peel off the different sections of tinfoil before Cassie grabs you.
To be fair, this is sounding better than Minecraft Story Mode.
They just announced the sequel, didn't they? Season 2.
Just announced the first episode's out.
Oh, I didn't realise that. I just spotted it on Steam saying get the season pass. I assumed it was coming out. I don't still get how you can make a story out of Minecraft, but clearly they've done something, and it's obviously popular.
The review should be coming out soon on GameGrin.
It wasn't. The first one wasn't a story about Minecraft. It was a story set in a vaguely Minecraft-ish world. So it took some stuff that some things from Minecraft, so like building and actually building. That's pretty much. And then just made a random ass story that wasn't very good, and then they made it. The season pass that they normally do was 5 episodes as always, but then the story finished in 4, and they started a brand new story in the 5th one and sold an additional 2 or 3 episodes as DLC.
3.
Which was shit of them. Because the only people who were going to buy it were the kids, or rather the parents of the kids.
Damn right. Keeps them little shits occupied.
And with that, I'm going to deal with my little shits.
Yay. God, you gotta love kids. Oh, okay, Chile. Have fun with your children.
No, he's having fun with my children. No.